In the last video, we talked about assignment statements in Python, which allow you to create variables. Now we're going to talk about naming conventions. Following these naming conventions is not necessary for your code to work, but it is a good best practice to help yourself and the people that you're collaborating with. When you create a variable or a custom function or a new class, your name should be descriptive. For example, imagine that you were using Python to calculate a company's gross margin. Instead of using these variable names, R and C and GP and GM, it would be better, normally, to do something like this. Name the same variables revenue and cost of goods sold, gross profit and gross margin. That way, anybody who reads your code can clearly see what these variables are being used for. If you and your coworkers would recognize COGS as an abbreviation for cost of goods sold right here, there's nothing wrong with using that abbreviation. The point is that your name should clearly communicate the meaning of the variable so that when you return to your file in 6 months, you remember what you did, and when you share it with others, they understand what you're doing too. Here is a syntax requirement in Python. Names must be one single unbroken string of characters. If you include spaces in a name, the interpreter will raise an error. So right here, I'm trying to name a variable gross margin with a space in between, but I'll execute this cell first since I'm making reference to gross profit and revenue. If I execute this cell, Python will raise a syntax error and point to this space, telling me that can't be there. That's invalid syntax. Instead, if I add an underscore, then Python will create my variable. Because variable names must be one unbroken string of characters, Python programmers and programmers of other languages use two main naming conventions to distinguish different words contained in the same name. Variables and functions are normally named using lowercase characters with words separated by underscores, like you see here. I have commission, percentage, and an underscore in between. This convention is sometimes called snake case. Classes, on the other hand, are normally named with the first letter of each word capitalized. So here's an example. I'm creating a class called stock data, and I'm capitalizing the S and capitalizing the D. I'm not separating these words with an underscore, but because I capitalize the first letter, it's easy to identify multiple words in the same name. This naming convention is sometimes called upper camel case. Python includes reserved names called keywords that are associated with different operators, operands, and modifiers of the flow of execution in Python. Because these names are reserved, you can't use them for a variable name. And is a keyword. And so if I try to assign the result of 2 plus 2 to that name, I'll get a syntax error. I have to change the name to something that's not reserved in order to create my variable. That's it for Python naming conventions. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like, and if you want to see more, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.